This is in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 13 South African soldiers have just been killed during clashes with M23 rebels in the eastern region of the country.
9 South African peacekeepers killed in an intense fighting against M23 rebels in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo.
4 more soldiers killed. The Red Cross says at least 70 people have been wounded since Monday.
The deaths occurred shortly after Defence and Military Veterans Minister concluded a week-long visit to the DRC, where she assessed the operational conditions and welfare of South African National Defence Force personnel deployed in the area.
Losing 9 soldiers is no child's play, particularly for the Minister of Defence. I don't even want to talk about the Commander-in-Chief, that is the President of the Republic, President Cyril Ramaphosa.
The number of injured soldiers has not yet been confirmed, but several are reported to have sustained injuries of varying severity. According to a statement, 7 of the fallen soldiers were part of the South African contingent deployed in North Kivu in December 2023 as part of the Southern African Development Community mission in the DRC, while 2 were attached to the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC. The Department of Defense commended the soldiers for their bravery, stating that they successfully pushed back the M23 rebels and prevented their advance toward Goma. South African troops are part of a regional Southern African Development Community initiative that includes contributions from countries such as Malawi and Tanzania, all working to counter the threat posed by the M23 rebel group. The operation is specifically targeted to prevent M23 from taking any territory.
M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo say that they have captured the eastern city of Goma after days of heavy fighting with government forces and UN peacekeepers.
M23 is primarily composed of Congolese Tutsi fighters and is reportedly supported by Rwanda. United Nations experts allege that Rwanda's defense force provides assistance to the group, a claim Rwanda denies. M23 claims it is protecting Tutsis from discrimination in the DRC while combating Rwandan rebels allegedly linked to the perpetrators of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation slammed the Rwandan government for allegedly supporting M23 rebels in the aftermath of this incident. In a statement, DRC emphasized that the M23 attacks violate the ceasefire established through the Luanda process. The department also expressed concern over the disregard for the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity outlined in the UN Charter, highlighting the well-documented involvement of external forces in destabilizing the country. Rwanda, however, has consistently denied any allegations of involvement in an invasion.
The DRC calls it a declaration of war by Rwanda and has cut all diplomatic ties with its neighboring nation, while Kigali accuses Kinshasa of blocking peace attempts.
The conflict in eastern DRC has persisted for years, with no clear resolution in sight. However, during this latest confrontation, South African troops and their allies successfully halted the rebels' advance toward Goma. South Africa has maintained a military presence in the region since late 2023. In early 2024, an additional 2,900 troops were deployed to bolster the existing contingent in the fight against armed groups. The year-long deployment is estimated to cost over 2 billion rand, sparking controversy over how the funds are being allocated. Allegations of corruption and mismanagement have plagued the mission, particularly concerning the use of private contractors for cargo transport. The cost of cargo flights by a single supplier since the Army's intervention in the DRC reportedly exceeds 250 million rand. Critics argue that this money could have been better spent on acquiring second-hand cargo planes for the South African Air Force. In March 2024, a complaint was filed with the Special Investigating Unit alleging favoritism toward Cobra Aviation, the main company handling cargo transport for the mission. However, the SIU ultimately declined to investigate the matter. Meanwhile, private companies, including Cobra Aviation, have continued to profit substantially by flying cargo between South Africa, the DRC, and Mozambique. The South African military remains vulnerable to exploitation, largely because the SA Air Force does not have a single serviceable cargo plane capable of handling critical transport needs. Documents reveal that Cobra Aviation conducted 12 return flights between South Africa and the DRC last year, earning approximately 126 million rand for these operations. However, many of these figures are estimates, leaving significant uncertainty about the exact amount spent and the source of the funds. What is clear is that this money is not coming from the SA National Defence Forces budget, which has been severely impacted by cuts. The country's military is operating with inadequate resources, but this does not reflect on the soldiers' capabilities. The SA National Defence Union has emphasised that while the troops deployed in the DRC are highly trained, they are grossly under-equipped. A report from early 2024 painted a grim picture of the conditions South African soldiers are enduring. Meals are being prepared on a few gas burners in open-air settings. There are no doctors or nurses deployed with the troops, meaning medical emergencies rely solely on first aid kits carried by medical orderlies. Basic necessities are in short supply. Restroom facilities are minimal, and food deliveries are hampered by a lack of refrigerated cargo containers, requiring fresh meat to be delivered daily. Compounding the issue is that all transactions in the DRC are conducted in cash, but troops are prohibited from holding large sums of dollars. Consequently, many suppliers have been forced to deliver supplies on credit. Promised financial support from regional partners for the stabilization force has repeatedly failed to materialize, forcing the SANDF to stretch its already limited budget to sustain the mission. The situation on the ground is dire. South African soldiers are under-resourced and losing their lives. Reports indicate that troops are operating under precarious conditions, despite repeated warnings that they lacked sufficient support for this deployment. According to City Press, the situation is so dire that the mobile mortuary sent to the DRC has been unusable because it was never unlocked or tested for serviceability. By Friday night, troops had run out of ammunition and could only wait helplessly for resupply shipments from South Africa. Exhausted and running on empty, the soldiers are struggling to continue. Yet these warnings were not taken seriously. Unions, experts, and the public have long maintained that troops should only be deployed with full logistical and operational support. Unfortunately, this has not been the case in the DRC, and growing calls demand the immediate return of South African forces. If you think about it, 3,000 men cannot reasonably be expected to accomplish what the UN, with nearly 20,000 soldiers, failed to achieve over the course of almost 20 years.